I am making a mutant deck profile. I've tested this deck a lot, and it's actually really fun. And I found the best version of it is the pure version, where I've tried using parts of the different versions of the deck, such as Mutant Thunder, but I didn't feel like that was good enough. But pure Thunder or Mutant is much better, and I just been making a lot of people upset with it. So starting off with the hand traps, I play 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, just because it's Ash. Being able to negate any card that would search, special summon from the deck, or send a card from the deck to the grave. Then a card that screws up a lot of the meta right now is 3 copies of Dimension Shifter. And its effect is if you have no cards in your grave, quick effect, you can send it to the graveyard. So until the end of the next turn, both players are under Macrocosmos. Then I play 3 copies of Mutant M005 and Mutant ST46. ST46 and M05 share the same effect, where if they're normal or special summoned, you can add a mutant card from your deck to your hand, and then you can banish or you can tribute the mutant and then banish a card from your hand or face up from your field to then summon a monster depending on what you banish. If you banish a monster, you summon Beast, Spell, you summon Mist, and Trap, you summon Arsenal. But where the two differ is M05 lets you add a mutant monster, and ST46 lets you add a mutant spell or trap. As their names suggest, having M05 and ST46. Then I play 3 copies of Mutant Beast. Mutant Beast cannot be special summoned except by the effect of a mutant card. And if your opponent's not allowed to target it with monster effects, and each of its effects are once per turn, where if your opponent would activate a spell card or the effect of a spell, you can banish 1 card from your hand or face up from your field, negate the activation, and banish it. And if it is destroyed in your possession and destroyed by an opponent's card, you can target one of your banished mutant cards or one of your mutant traps and add it to your hand. Then I play 2 copies of Mutant Mist. Mist cannot be summoned except by the effect of a mutant card. Your opponent can't target it with spell cards. And if your opponent would activate a trap, then you can banish 1 card from your hand or face up from your field to then draw 2 cards. And if it is destroyed by an opponent's card, target one of your banished mutant monsters and add it to your hand. Then to finish off the monsters, I play 2 copies of Mutant Arsenal. Arsenal can only be summoned by the effect of can only be special summoned by the effect of a mutant card, and it cannot be targeted by traps. And if your opponent would activate a monster effect, you can banish 1 card from your hand or face up from your field to then target 1 monster your opponent controls and remove from play. And then if it would be destroyed by an opponent's card, target 1 of your banished mutant spells and add it to your hand. If you don't, I'm only playing 8 of level 8s just because I like summoning their big fusion, which requires 3 level 8 or higher mutants. But if you don't want to play as many, you could take out 1 of each of them. So you're playing 2 Beasts, 1 Mist, 1 Arsenal. And toss in something else like Dragoon. But that is it for the monsters. Moving on to the spells, I play 1 copy of Mutant Fusion. Mutant Fusion just lets you fusion summon a mutant fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials from your hand or your side of the field. But your opponent has activated a card or effect during that turn, such as being hand trapped. You can also use 1 from your deck and grave as well. And then I also play 1 copy of Dimensional Fissure. Just banish any monster sent to the grave instead. This turns off hand traps such as Ghost Ogre and Effect Veiler, because since they can't go to the grave, they can't activate. Then I play 3 copies of Mutant Evolution Lab. Evolution Lab has the effect of when it's activated, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower mutant monster from your hand or banished. All mutant monsters you control gain 100 attack for each of your banished mutant cards with different names. And then once per turn during your main phase, you can take 1 mutant monster from your hand, place it at the bottom of the deck, and draw 1 card. However, you can only activate 1 mutant lab per turn. So you can get its draw effect multiple times, I believe. Yes. Those effects of Mutant Lab are soft ones per turn, but you can only activate 1 lab per turn, so it's really only soft ones per turn is the effect to draw. Then to finish out the spells, I play 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. Just because Extravagance, banish either 3 or 6 cards from your extra deck, draw 1 or 2 cards, but you can't draw cards for the rest of the turn. But if you don't want to play Extravagance, then I'd say add in Effect Veilers. That is it for the spells. Moving on to the traps, which there are a lot of. I play 1 copy of Macrocosmos because you don't mind your things being banished because you can recycle them when they're banished, but your opponent more than likely can't. So far, this deck has actually never lost to decks like Dragon Link or other decks that actually need their graveyard because I've been dealing with their graveyards from turn 1. Then I play 3 copies of Mutant Expansion. Mutant Expansion has the effect of when it's activated, you can take a level 4 lower mutant monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or special summon it. And then, if a level 8 or higher mutant monster you control be destroyed by, I believe that's by card effect, you can banish Mutant Expansion instead, and you can only activate 1 expansion per turn. Then I play 3 copies of Mutant Cry. Mutant Cry can only be activated during the main phase, but during the main phase you can special summon, or you can fusion summon 1 mutant fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing the materials, or by shuffling the materials listed on it from into your deck from the cards that are on your field, grave, or face-up banished. You can only activate it once per turn, which has actually been pretty useful because you can use that to summon the more likely summoned mutant synthesis. Then I play 3 copies of There Can Be Only One because you only ever summon 4 different types of monsters and you usually only have 1 of each anyway. And then to finish off the traps, 3 infinite impermanents because impermanence. Moving on to the extra deck, I play 2 copies of Predaplant Green Anaconda. Because I only play this because you can use it to send Mutant Fusion. I think it was called Mutant Fusion. I don't remember if it actually has more than the. Yeah, you can send Mutant Fusion to the grave to then copy its effects. And or if you don't want to play Extravagance, then you can also send Red Eyes Fusion, but I only play it because it's a fusion deck anyway, so why wouldn't I play it? Same reason for my 2 copies of Cross Sheep. And my brother decided he was going to draw Angry Eyebrows on the Cross Sheep, so now I have Angry Eyebrow Cross Sheep. But I also play it because, again, it's a fusion deck, so why wouldn't I play it? Then I play 1 copy of Nightmare Cerberus. This should be a Phoenix, but I do not have a Phoenix, so Cerberus will do. And then to finish off the links, 1 Borlo Dragon. If you want to play more links, I'd say you can take these 3 out, because I'm only playing these 3 because Dogmatica. And that's 3 copies of Elder Entity. You're never summoning this card in this deck. This card's only in here because if you face Dogmatica, they'll make you send cards from your extra deck to the grave. So with it, you can send this to the grave and activate its effect, where if it's sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 card on the field and destroy it. And then the most often seen mutant fusion monster and one of the two boss monsters of the deck is mutant synthesis. Synthesis just requires two mutant monsters with different attributes, but if it's fusion summoned, you can target one card in the field and destroy it. But when your opponent would activate a card or effect, you can chain this card's effect, make it unaffected by cards of that type until the end of the opponent's until the end of the turn. So, an example: your opponent summons Mechaba, you activate Mutant Cry, they let it go through. You summon Synthesis. Synthesis targets Mechaba to destroy. Your opponent will discard a monster to activate Mechaba's effect, and then you can chain Synthesis to make it unaffected by monsters. So you basically made your opponent lose a monster and their synthesis and their Mechaba. Same thing with impermanence. Target card your opponent controls, they chain impermanence to it. You chain its effects, and it's unaffected by traps till the end of the turn. And then the monster I consider to be their big boss monster is 3 copies of Mutant Ultimus. Ultimus requires 3 level 8 or higher mutant monsters, but if when your card or effect is activated, you can activate its effect to banish 1 mutant card from your hand, graveyard, or face up on your field of the same type, so monster, spell, or trap, to then negate the activation and banish it. And then if it was fusion summoned, but was destroyed by an opponent's card, you can add up to 3 of your banished mutant cards of 1 monster, 1 spell, and 1 trap to your hand, and you can only use each effect of Mutant Ultimus once per turn. But the reason I like it is just because it's a negation that also lets you recycle resources, and it's 3,500 attack, which isn't that bad. So that is it for my mutant deck profile. If you have any ideas of what I can do to try to improve the deck, feel free to let me know. Or if you have any ideas of decks you want me to try to make, feel free to comment below. Thanks for watching.